So I think we started recording. So saludos, greetings, Spartans. My name is Rosa Rodriguez. I'm the current president of REFORMA SJSU Student and Alumni Group. I'm so happy to have everyone join us this evening. And we did a quick introduction of our executive board. And for those of you who are just joining us, if you'd like to just enter in the chat your name, or your name's already showing, but where you're joining us from, that would be great. And just a few announcements. If you experience any technical issues, please send a private chat to Sophia or I, and we'll try to assist you. And please mute your microphone just to help keep that background noise to a minimum. And I will start to introduce our panelists. So Kenny Garcia is here with us today. He graduated in 2011 from SJSU and is currently a research and instructional librarian at California State University, Monterey Bay, and is the outgoing immediate past president for Reforma National. Celia Avila is with the Los Angeles Public Library, and Sonia Bautista is with the Commerce Library, and Renee Torres is our recent alumni class of 2021 and is currently working at Coastline Community College. We will be monitoring the chat throughout this evening. If you have a question for a particular panelist, please let them know. Otherwise, each panelist will take turns answering the question. Please unmute yourself to ask your question, or you can enter your questions in the chat as well. And if you want to add a little bit more to your introductions for those panelists that I just introduced, please take a few moments to share something about yourselves.
Sonia is past president of Reforma.
Yes, I was a past president of the LA chapter about 9 years ago. I'm the current treasurer for the past probably 3 years now. And I'm also an adjunct professor for the East LA Community College.
I'm also a Reforma LA past chapter president, I think about 5 years ago. I've also served as PIO for them, and right now currently serving as fundraising and scholarship chair. And I also do the National PR Chair Committee. So yeah.
All right. So if anybody would like to ask our panelists any questions, if you want to take a few moments, I do have some questions prepared so I can start us off. If you prefer to enter in the chat, as I mentioned, please feel free to do so. Sophia and I are both monitoring the chat, and we'd be happy to ask the question for you. So the first question that I think is so relevant to all of us that are still finishing up the program is, could you share tips and tricks on how you completed your e-portfolio?
Crying mostly, just ugly crying the whole time. For me, the thing that helped me the most was a previous graduate had told me to organize all of my assignments like ahead of time. So at the end of each semester, I had a folder on my laptop where I organized each assignment in multiple folders that it would fit in the competencies. So once I sat down to actually write my e-portfolio and share everything, it was a little bit easier because I didn't have to sift through everything. So that for me was really helpful. I don't know about everyone else.
I think I'll go next. Actually, for me, I didn't know anyone in the program. I think I would say here I'm probably one of the ones that graduated a long time ago compared to Celia or Kenny or Renee. But I had no idea even about seriously the e-portfolio. Like I was just taking classes because I wanted to finish. And I think it was a little bit over halfway where someone, after meeting people, because I was still part of the graduating class that met in person, we were hybrid, that they told me. And ever since I found out, I tell everyone I know that's going to school, I'm like, save everything, because I had to redo a lot of it. And I was just looking at the website actually, because I haven't been on, the the school's website, and now I see that they tell you like what class for what competency, and pay close attention to that, like make sure that competency A goes with the classes that you're taking, and save everything, and make notes about what I did after knowing that I had to turn this in. I created my homework, or I created things at work that would fit that competency. So like I remember one was like collection development. So I asked my boss, can I create like a teen, YA list? So, and I was doing it, yes, of course, for my job, but I was actually doing it so it could fit a competency. So I was lucky in that aspect that I was able to do that. So yeah, I would just say, like Sally said, just save everything and don't wait till the last minute like I did to submit the last day. It was nerve-wracking submitting your last competency.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I also saved everything, and like Celia, like put things in different folders by the competency area. I think what was helpful for me was to start writing things out early and kind of have things in draft form, and then keep going back to it throughout the semester. So, I did submit it at the last date, and I kind of kept writing until the last date. But I think it helped with my anxiety about like finishing everything up, because I started to kind of have drafts ready, and yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would just add on to the organization. So I didn't necessarily do it in folders like Celia was saying, but I did have, I know the iSchool now does a like success planner where they have a kind of Google Sheets that you can use, or Excel sheet. So I did that to kind of check assignments that were from other classes that maybe didn't necessarily meet the competency, but because of the way that I approached the assignment, it actually did. So for like example, for the academic or issues in academic libraries class, we had to do a research paper, could be on any topic from the class, but I chose to do it on diversity in academic libraries that would meet the diversity requirement as well as my research requirement. So it's kind of like how I approached the assignment to help meet some different competencies. And then as well, definitely check out the examples that are provided from the iSchool about how to like approach writing a competency, because I had no idea what it was even supposed to look like. It sounds so odd to be like, you got to write this huge portfolio, and it's not necessarily a paper, but it's kind of like a paper. So I would highly recommend checking out examples, because it kind of gave me a visualization of what it was supposed to look like, and then obviously make it my own from there. So that would be my two things, is you can kind of think ahead about if you want to tailor an assignment, or like Sonia was saying, of like doing an assignment via work kind of thing. I know a lot of classmates did that as well.
Renee, Sarah wants to know, were you able to use the same piece of evidence for more than one competency?
You definitely can. It just depends on how you write up the assignment. I don't think I really had to, just because I took so many classes. I actually took a couple extra because I had scholarship money too, that I was like, I might as well take extra classes. So yeah, I don't think I needed to, but you definitely could, just based on how you would frame the defense of it, I guess. So like, say for that example, you could have maybe used it in the diversity competency and also on the research one, but just how you talked about research or how you talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And so Sophia just, I was just going to read the comment, sorry. She used the same piece of evidence for more than one.
Many times. I used multiple pieces many times throughout, and I passed. So.
And maybe I could just add one more thing, like really read the competency, what it asks for, because I think instead of me seeing what my assignment was and trying to fit it into one, I saw the competency, and then that's how I figured, okay, this one really goes, I need this information for this competency. So I'm going to gear the way I do the assignment, or, I really needed to know the competency, because one, like we're saying, fits in many, but it's just how you approach it. So really get to know each one and what it really asks for.
There's a comment from Chris that says, I finished my e-portfolio this semester and I can use the same evidence for multiple competencies, but I use different elements of it. So like if I had made a YouTube video as a tutorial, it went under the tech competency for multimedia, and then also competency K because the content was a learning experience. That's awesome. All right.
And I'll just add that this is also good practice once you get into the workplace, especially if you want to work in academic libraries and you're going through some kind of tenure process, because you might be writing something similar for your evaluation portfolio, where you might be be asked to collect evidence, and you might be able to place it in different areas. So it's definitely great practice and great experience, thinking about the e-portfolio and ways that you can use it once you get into the workplace.
It's a great tip.
I have a question for the graduates, and you're all, the e-portfolio, what role did it play in your interview? If it did have a role in your interview?
For my portfolio, I don't think that I used too much of it in my interview when I got the job. It wasn't done when I did my first interview, but I've definitely used that skill set in preparing for interviews. So like I look at the job bulletin, I look at each little bullet that they have that I'm supposed to satisfy. So I look at each one of those as a competency, and then I sit there and write out like all the different ways in my career that I have met that competency or met that need that they have, so that I'm prepared for interviews. So although I didn't directly use it in all my interviews, I do use that skill set that that organization in trying to prepare for job processes or really any interview process that I've done.
I would say I didn't use mine either, because I actually got a librarian job 9 months before I graduated. So I really needed to pass because it was contingent on my graduation. And so no, I didn't use my portfolio. I used my job to do my portfolio, which is kind of the other way around. But again, I mean, exactly what Celia said, like it helps you out a lot, like to get organized. I don't think even in school I wasn't that organized until I did the portfolio.
And I didn't necessarily use the actual portfolio during my interview, but part of the questions that you get asked are your skill sets, and so I kind of highlighted the the technical skill sets that I learned. I took an HTML class, so I kind of spoke about that in the interview, as well as kind of being able to, the other important class that I took, that I use that experience to get into a faculty internship position at to the Los Angeles Community College District. If anybody's interested, Project Match is a great program if you are in the LA area. But I kind of use the cataloging course and the skills that I learned in cataloging to kind of get some experience at LA City College.
And say I might be in the unique experience of actually applying to jobs right now as a recent graduate. So for me, I haven't, as everyone said, I haven't used the specific e-portfolio for something. but when I've been writing my letters and I have been able to make it to some interviews and second round interviews, so fingers crossed on that. But like they're saying, like speaking to what skills they're looking for, or I know obviously for a lot of institutions, DEI and anti-racism is a big deal. So you might need to write a statement related to that. And actually, like my experience with working with REFORMA, I talked about trying to make it like a space for Latinx librarians and allies to come together to talk about different issues, right? And if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to have that in my letter, or doing some different things related. I'm interested in health librarianship or health science librarianship, that if I didn't do some projects on that, I wouldn't necessarily be able to list that I have those skills right now, even though I did those as a student. So yeah, I think it's kind of using those bits and pieces, and then maybe also using the, like we were saying, the way of looking at the assignment, because sometimes I know I could just be like, oh, I got to get this assignment done. I have to do this discussion post. I have to do this essay to just get my degree. But the ePortfolio kind of lets you reflect on really the amount of growth you've had over the last couple of years, however long you decide to be in the program, that it lets you look back and say, wow, I really was able to accomplish this, and think about it in a different way than maybe I would have before. So I guess that's what it's helped me think about, is, again, rather than just like, oh, I got to get this done, to something that's very usable and tangible for the workforce.
I think that the panelists have answered Sarah's similar question about whether Kenny, Celia, Sonia, or Renee have showcased their portfolio to help them get their jobs. I think that covered it.
All right. If no one else has a question, I have a different one. Is there something about the MLIS program that has changed or enhanced your perspective on librarianship?
I'll go if no one goes first. Like I said, when I started school, I didn't know anyone that was in school, so I didn't know, what to expect, and I don't know how it's changed, or changed me. The truth, I mean, I started as a page, working, and then I became a library aide, and then I became a library assistant. And then I figured might as well be a librarian. I've been doing this for 10 years. So that's how I got into librarianship, because my mom worked at the library. So I had to go away for her. And I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anyone who was that I can talk to about this. And again, the honest truth is just because I figured this is the next step. I'm an assistant. I can't get any further than this. What do I need to do? And since I worked there, well, the next step is to become a librarian. So I don't know if I can say that it has changed me in any way, because that's all I've known. And so just surrounded, my brother's a librarian, my sister's a librarian, my cousin's a librarian, my best friend's a librarian. Chinese library. So, I mean, that's all my world. So I don't know if it's in any part, the program has, kind of shaped me, or I can't really say it has. I enjoyed it because it was hybrid. So my year was the last year, it was hybrid. So I enjoyed that part of being able to interact with people, to be in groups, because it's online group thing. I mean, now we've all experienced it, but back then it was just, we didn't have Zoom. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed being part of getting to meet with people. And even though we were here in LA, there was people that I met that I still keep in contact because of that. But I think that's why I push so much for students to try to meet up if they're in LA. And I know that some of them are attending, the group. I'm like, you need to meet up, because that's what's really gonna help out. So I don't know if that answers exactly your question, but.
I have a similar journey to Sonia, where I just, I was an MC, I was a teen volunteer, and then I was a page in LAPL, and then I was just like, well, the next thing I'll be a librarian. So it didn't change me much. Going through the program, though, I did realize that just how much tech possibility there was within librarianship. So like, I know Kenny mentioned that he took an HTML course. I took a web page building course, and I think I took the HTML course too, but that was one of the things that the MLS program kind of brought to my attention, was just the amount of possibility that there was even within librarianship, like just with a degree in other types of work environments. So.
Yeah, there was a lot that I learned about the different types of work that could be done in librarianship. You know, I just, you know, my first job was like a library assistant for a public library. So I thought, you know, I was going to get this degree to work in public libraries, and then I got exposed to academic librarianship, and so it was kind of getting exposed to different types of jobs was really great. I wish I could have taken an archives course. I think that's the one thing that I kind of regret from the MLS program. And just to add, I'll second what Sonia said about having meetups. The year that I was in, or during the time that I was in the program, Cynthia Orozco, who's a librarian at East Los Angeles College, she was she was in the program during the same time that I was, and she organized meetups. And it was the first time, you know, being in an online program, that I was able to kind of meet with other students that were in the program. And she organized site visits to different library locations, and we were able to go and speak to other professionals as students, and you know, just try to get a sense of what work was being done. And it was the first time, you know, the hard part was being in an online program, but it was really great to meet people in person and kind of have that sense of community, that, you know, you're not just doing it on your own. And also reaching out to other folks in the program that you feel like you might be connected to. I feel like we all might know Madeline Peña, but she's the reason why I got involved with REFORMA, and we were taking a class together. And she also graduated from San Jose State. And, you know, she said that she was from the Dominican Republic. And so that's where my family's from. And so we kind of made that connection through a class. And then we kind of just met up in person, and we were both in the LA area. And so being able to connect with folks that you feel like you might have some kind of affinity or a connection to, like, is also a great way to kind of support each other while you're in the program.
Yeah, so I guess just to answer the question, I mean, I wish I would have done a meetup. That sounds great from both of you. I wasn't able to manage a meetup out here in Orange County, but as far as the kind of maybe changing my perspective or things like that, as Rosa mentioned, I work at a community college right now here in Orange County at Coastline Community College. And I work at the college, but I'm not in the library. I don't work a library job right now. So I'm just in higher education within the kind of tutoring realm. And so for me, I guess it was using some of the concepts that was from librarianship in my current work that I maybe wouldn't have thought of before. Things like I helped redesign the web pages for my department, because I was like, this is information overload. I wouldn't have really thought of this beforehand if I hadn't taken classes on, you know, learning and the online environment and things like that. So I was able to kind of bring some of my concepts from class to work and say, hey, I really think it'd be a great idea to redesign the website to be more user friendly and clear communication on what students have access to. And I really, I guess, think that kind of thought process to the program, because before I'd had experience from humanities in my history classes and things like that, which I think brings a lot of context to the communities we're serving and things like that, but not necessarily the specific, like, how do we make sure they have the information they need to be successful and get to where they want to go. So I guess that's maybe a kind of specific example of something that I wouldn't have thought of before. And maybe speaking to what Celia was saying about technical skills and things like that, that you can kind of gain from it, along with other classes on the program or in the program.
Just to speak to some of the comments that were being made about getting in touch, meeting up. I think that that's important. And as Sarah mentioned, her and I both met because she lives up in this area as a meetup, because we kind of wanted to connect and build that sense of community that you were all speaking about, because it is a virtual program or an online program. And Kenny and I were just having that conversation before the event started, how, you know, how different it is to connect virtually versus in person. So it has been nice to be able to have those opportunities as well. And I can't wait till, you know, COVID's done so we can hopefully all meet up at one of the conferences. And there are some comments. I don't know if there was any questions in there. LA chapter will have events again soon.
Oh.
And Renee said something about a sister college.
Oh yeah, I
And
think Christopher is at Golden West, is the sister college to Coastline. So like we're literally in the same community college district.
Yeah.
Small world.
And I live like 2 miles from Golden West. So if you want
Oh.
to have the Orange County chapter of 2 people, you know, hey.
There we go. Finally found some Orange County folks from the program.
And Dr. V says, I'm happy to meet up or put you all in touch with other students in the area to meet up. Also, REFORMA chapters are a great way to meet up. Definitely. All right. So the next question we have is, do you have advice on internships and or volunteer opportunities?
I was really fortunate to live close to LA City College. Like I was able to like walk there, and I had an assignment for one of the classes where I was asked to go to a library and do a reference interaction, and then also observe a reference, like the reference services. And I went in there and I asked, hey, can I observe? And they were like, sure. And that led to an internship that I did there as I was still a student. And so it was a great experience to always reach out to your local libraries, even if it's not listed as an official internship site, because it could possibly turn into an official internship site. I know at my current job, we've accepted folks. We've kind of taken on internships from folks that are in the area that were looking to get experience in academic librarianship, and we've kind of taken it on if folks were had the capacity to kind of take that workload on. And so we've taken on 2 or 3 students. I've been an advisor for a San Jose State student who lived in the area, and this was pre-pandemic, but I kind of met with the student once a month to kind of talk about their experience. But I think reaching out to folks that you might reaching out to institutions that are close to where you live is a good way, even if they're not listed as an official site.
would say as far as volunteering, if you do want to, if you're interested in public librarianship, volunteering is a really great way to get started because you start to get to know the staff at your local branch and some of the policies for the particular library system in the area. As far as, you know, if libraries near you aren't taking and offering internships or taking volunteers at whatever point, I would say try and look at other opportunities where you can continue to use the skills that you're developing. That way, you know, once those opportunities do come up, you can't just drop in and say, well, you know, even though I wasn't in a library position here, these are all the different things that I did that apply to this position as well. So that's one of the things that I've learned from a couple of others who've been having difficulty finding those internships or finding those volunteer opportunities, even to satisfy those school requirements. But finding things that will be similar to get you that experience is really helpful. So you know, expand your horizons if needed.
I know Kenny mentioned it, the project match, that's an internship that I also did, Kenny, the project match, and that's how I got the to teach at East LA College, and that's here in LA. And from what I hear, you know, that's something that's very useful for across, you know, community colleges. Like Celia said, volunteer in different organizations. I'm also a volunteer. I'm a community board advisor for the PBS SoCal. And even though it has nothing to do, you know, with libraries, but I mean, PBS education, and they get to learn what libraries do. And at the same time, you know, you get to also volunteer, and I volunteer in committees. And talking about volunteering, you can also volunteer for Reforma LA chapter. There's a lot of opportunities there, so many committees. And again, it's not in the library, but you get to meet and network with so many different types of librarians, and always volunteer to be a chair or co-chair of any type of committee, because that's where you're going to learn. You're going to learn a lot, and also learn to work with other people, other personalities, the way they conduct meetings, the way they work. And I think that's very crucial, because that's one thing, at least I didn't learn from school, is how to interact with other people and the different personalities. And I think that's something that's very needed, especially now, is how do you work with others? How do you communicate with others and their different types of, you know, leadership? So I think you get that from all the organizations that you might belong to. And that's a great experience.
Yes. So just to piggyback off of Sonia, for all of you who are Reforma members, which is everyone, of course, when you're voting, make sure to fill out that volunteer form at the end of the ballot, and you can volunteer for any of the national committees that are going on. So, and then, yeah, check our Reforma LA website for the volunteers.
We'll put you to work. No. Right, Celia?
Yes, we will absolutely put you to work. We have a lot of work to do.
I think I'll just add on. I saw that Sarah mentioned in the chat that she just did a custom internship, and I did as well, actually. And speaking of what Kenny was saying about, it might not be an official internship that's being advertised from the school, but if you speak with them or talk to certain people or have some kind of connection, they might make it happen. And that's what happened with my most recent internship at USC's Norris Medical Library, was because my mentor through another scholarship connected me with the folks there, and they were interested in taking on an intern at that time. But again, they didn't fly that at all. They didn't advertise that at all. It would just happen to kind of organically come up because I knew someone that was at that institution. But I have done 2 other internships before that, locally as well. And I guess for me, I think internships were really fulfilling because it helped me feel like a professional, I guess. It's really easy to, like I said, do classes and you just feel like you're a student the whole time. I guess at least I was lucky enough at all my internships that all the librarians treated me as a peer, not as a student or just an intern to go, you know, run copies or something like that. They really treated me as a colleague and a peer to do projects. So I'd highly recommend them because it did help me kind of see myself as a professional. But I love the advice about, like, even if you can't get an internship right now for whatever reason, or volunteer at a library, of joining some kind of committee or getting involved with your local chapter, because I wouldn't have thought of that before, but that's definitely true that you're still using all of those skills and networking and doing all those wonderful things. So I really appreciate that piece of advice.
And Annabelle had a question about, applying to internships if you have a full-time job. And that gets really tricky. I'll be honest. Like I was working full-time and going to school part-time, and my work, I was able to negotiate, a little bit of flexibility so that I can kind of do an internship. But I know that gets hard depending on your work situation. But if it's something where, I was able to change my work schedule, so I was doing the internship in the morning for a few hours, and I think I did the 2-hour unit that Sarah was mentioning, where it was 6 hours a week, and so I worked like Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, and then I would go from the internship to my work. But that gets kind of tricky. It's helpful if you have a work environment that supports your school.
And the same for me, Kenny, too. I was working full time. I was fairly new in my job, and then I did that project match, and that was 6 hours, like on a Wednesday, I remember. So I had to like cut my lunch hours short and ask for permission to get out early and use some of my time. But I felt that I really wanted, that was academic. I was being public. I really wanted the experience. And I said, you just talk to your boss or talk to whoever you can, and know that because then after this whole summer that you do the internship part of it, then you do the fall in class. But I hear project match is not going to be all online, so it'll be maybe easier. But like Kenny said, if your boss gives you permission, or if you, depends how much of a social butterfly you are too, you need to plan ahead and commit, because it is. I didn't get a job right after at East LA College. It took about 1.5 years, but it was worth it.
There's just some few comments in the chat. You can volunteer for Reforma National, and Dr. V is looking for people for the Reforma Education Committee, and students are also welcome. And Sarah has a comment that there are virtual internships too, so maybe the work can be asynchronous like class. So those are awesome tips there. All right, so now we're going to get to another question. What was your favorite class or professor?
I really liked taking classes with Wayne Disher. So I took a couple of his management courses, and I found them very helpful. And just, so he was always someone that I looked for, and Beth Renestes. So I really enjoyed her youth services class, because at the time I wanted to be a teen librarian and then eventually become a manager, which was the track that I was able to follow thanks to them. So those are the two I liked the most.
I don't remember much, but I do remember I liked all the teen classes because that was what my job was. So anything that would help me with my job. But there was some. I know you asked what did you like, but there's some that I didn't like. But now I understand why I had to take them, like cataloging. I'm like, oh, I don't want to take that. But now I can see why I needed the class, which is so helpful right now. So even though I don't do cataloging, but I'm glad I took that class, at least like an intro. So maybe I do like it now, but I didn't like it back then. But anything related to like teens, and I took it with Dr. Bernier. Yeah.
I the classes that I enjoyed the most were the ones that had like projects that I had to do during the class. So the cataloging class where I had to like actually complete an actual catalog record. The HTML class, just because I had to build a website, and the database management class, because it you kind of think about databases and how they function, but when you actually try to build an actual database, it kind of really opens your eyes to kind of the structure part and the technical pieces to it. And I wish I was in the program when Dr. V was teaching it, because I know I would really enjoy one of her courses.
I definitely agree with that comment. Is I wish I would have taken a class with Dr. V. She's been a great club advisor. I guess jumping off of what Kenny's saying about projects, I also agree with that. I wouldn't have thought about it before the program, but I really enjoyed the HTML class and the the content management sites class. And I took both of those with Raymond Dean in the program. I think he's a great professor. All of his content is like super easy to understand for someone who is like not techie at all. So I really appreciated his classes. And it was really fun to be able to create something actually. Again, I have a background in humanities and history. And so I think I was kind of burnt out on writing essays and writing papers. So it was nice to make something that I felt like you could use. So I really enjoyed those classes. And then the other one that was really interesting, and it was a really short class, was the copyright class. I think it's a 1-unit class, actually. It's only 4 weeks long, but it was really interesting and very applicable to all parts of librarianship. And so I think we had some really good discussions about, fair use and copyright law and all those kinds of things. So I found that one really interesting, and it was just a quick little bite, but I found it really helpful. So those are kind of the two areas, again, that I wouldn't have maybe thought I would have really liked, but I really enjoyed those. And yeah, I think those would be the two that stick out in my mind. And again, maybe because they weren't something I anticipated liking.
All right, so the next question is, what do you wish you can change or do differently during the program?
Taking a class with Dr. V. I think we all agree. I wish I had taken more tech-focused classes. I think I only took a few. And at the time, there wasn't as many as there is now. So even my sister also went through the program a couple years after I did. And even when she was in there were so many more new classes. Like I know there was an app building option. So I do wish that I had more tech background, but yeah.
I think same with me. I don't think I took many. I don't think they offered that many. Right. But then again, I wonder if they offered then, would it be applicable to what we're using now? Everything changes, so I think more tech classes. But I got to do a little bit of everything because I wasn't really sure at the beginning what I wanted to focus on. But yeah, more tech.
When I went through the program, they were transitioning away from the hybrid program, and so they did give me the option to kind of take like a in-person class, and I wish I would have taken at least one, because I feel like that's one of the pieces that was hard for me, was just doing a completely online program. And so that's the part that I kind of would have done differently.
Yeah, so I think kind of tying in with that actually is I wish I would have gotten involved in like a student group or something sooner, because before joining Reforma, after Dr. V sent out her call for people to apply for positions last summer, I hadn't really been involved in anything, and as we were saying earlier, I didn't have a meetup with any other people, so it did really feel like I was kind of, and I also didn't work in a library or work with people in the program. So I did feel like I was in it alone, and questioning whether I should be doing this, whether I should be in the library. It's a lot of time and commitment and money and things like that. But I feel like once I joined Reforma for the student group here, it helped me feel more connected to the school and feel more connected to the program. So obviously there's a lot of folks here in the meeting right now, but if I guess anyone's on YouTube watching this later, that would be my recommendation, is to try to get involved in a student group or a local Reforma chapter, because I feel like once I started doing those kinds of things, it helped me feel more like I was a part of a community rather than just doing something on my own and thinking, yeah, I want to be a librarian and I love helping people and I love, helping them be successful and things like that. And it helped move it into like, oh, I could do this. I can get a job in this. I want to work with these people. These are people that inspire me, things like that. So that's me just saying that everyone in Reforma SJSU is very lovely and I really appreciate them.
Just gonna check the chat. As Dr. V says, I teach info 200 to 81, cultural competence and competence, 2 sections. If students wanted to know each spring and fall. So there's still time, people. Like she was saying, Kenny, you can always come back.
Yeah, I wish they would. I keep asking if I could take more classes, but there's some like technical like issues with my work that they're not willing to pay for it because the program is done through extended education and not stateside program. But I'm gonna keep pushing and see if I can get something. But I would love to take more classes. And that's what's great about going to the program is that you're gonna want to learn more as you kind of keep working, and there's always new things like Sonia said, like the what you learn in your tech classes you might not necessarily apply it later on, but it's that a willingness to learn and to kind of take what you've already learned and to kind of gain that a confidence that you can try something new. But it's always great to kind of learn new things while you're a working professional too.
Kenny, when you sign up, let me know. And Sally and I will join you. Let's do it.
That's awesome. Well, I'll have a reunion a few years down the line with Dr. V and her class, right? All right, so we have time for one more question. And if you could give MLIS students one tip, what would it be?
Try everything. A lot of the times the journey that you prepare for isn't necessarily the journey that you end up on. I don't know, I'm sure we've all done several different things that, we really didn't think we would do. Like I was, along with Madeline, was social media librarian at some point, which was something that was completely new. And, say yes, try new things, keep learning, keep taking the courses when you can. Apply to all the free stuff, all the free webinars, they're out there. I know there's a ton right now, but there didn't always used to be, but they're all really helpful. So, keep building your skill set and say yes to things, even if you don't know how to do it, say yes, I'll work on it, I'll learn, and then, just be open.
And I would add to that is, find yourself a mentor also. Not just one, you can have many for multiple reasons. And sometimes, maybe sometimes you don't even have to approach your mentor, just visibly seeing someone in the way they are, either, at your work or in school. And also, when people tell you, reach out, ask questions, contact me, do it, because I know that we're willing to help. And I feel sometimes students feel like, oh, I don't want to bother them, or they're too busy, or, I'm embarrassed, or no, I really feel like when we say, if you want to reach out to us, if you want to ask questions, do it. We're always willing to help out. And that's one thing that I kind of regret that I didn't do when I was a student. I was kind of I'm like, no, I don't want to ask them. Or I don't even know they don't even know who I am. How am I going to approach them? But that's how you start. So, find yourself a mentor, a couple of mentors. And I think that's going to help you out a lot. Awesome.
I'll just add that I completely agree with what Sonia just said. Try to find folks that might support what you need, and so you might be needing different things from different folks. So that's why it's great to have different mentors, and it's I think it's I lost my train of thought. So I might come back to it in a second.
I think I'll just add on to some of that sentiment of saying yes and being brave and things like that. I was able to get several scholarships that paid for quite a bit of my education and connected me with mentors and different things. And I actually have met some other LIS students from other universities who, at least the current student affairs side of the program is really good about messaging out about scholarships and opportunities and different things like that. And I guess I would say do it, because not that many people apply to some of these things and you're more than qualified. I think a lot of us sometimes have that imposter syndrome that you're not good enough for it, or like Sonia was saying, oh, I'm going to bother people, or whatever, things like that. But I think really trying to tell myself what's the worst that's going to happen? Okay, I spent a Saturday filling out this whole form to turn this in. But then I got a scholarship out of it. And if I didn't, it's okay. So I think that's a really important thing that I learned through the program, is that to just kind of go for things. And if nothing else, it's a learning experience. And at the best, I gained something really great from it. So I guess that would be my comment.
Go ahead, Kenny.
I just remember what I wanted to say, that if anyone is interested in academic librarianship, I'll put my email in the chat. I'm more than happy to kind of give feedback on anything that you're kind of working on. If you're writing statements or CVs or anything like that, I'm more than happy to. And what folks were saying, you should always ask. The worst that can happen is they say they can't do it. But if you don't ask, you don't know whether or not people can kind of provide that support to you. So you can always, there are plenty of REFORMA folks that really want to support students and see them succeed. This is a really great community that's very supportive.
And just to add, yes, I will also put my email in the chat. Feel free to email me. I'll look at your resumes. I'll do mock interviews. So I've done that for a couple of people. And even if you just email your local chapters too, I know through the LA account, we have gotten some requests to look at CVs or resumes or give those practice interviews. And we usually do a couple. So we'll do an interview with you, give you some feedback, and then we'll do a second session to see, how it worked out. But, yes, if someone tells you that they want to help, take that help, always take that help. And then even if you're not sure, ask. The only other thing would be, in addition to finding mentors that you could go to for support, it's equally important to find those friendships. A lot of the, before I found Reforma, I was kind of just like wandering around and like, who do I talk to? So finding Reforma and connecting with people like Sonia and Madeline, and even Dr. V sometimes, you build those friendships and you build those relationships that you can, all that confidence that you kind of build to battle imposter syndrome, which comes from your librarian squad, your Reforma squad. So it's important to find those people that you can trust and you can ask advice to, so your peers. So yeah, thank you guys.
I'll
Thank you
also
all.
put your email,
Go
but
ahead.
Will you be sharing our contact with the students? Just in case they
Yeah.
don't get to write it down here.
If it's the one that we've reached out to you with via email, we'll go ahead and share those.
Okay, I'll just put it there.
If you don't want us to share it, just email us and let us know. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and share.
Thank you.
So just to close out our event tonight, I just wanted to say that our group's focus this academic year has been to offer programs for our members and other iSchool students to help develop professional skills and increase awareness of library and information services to Latinos by providing learning experiences through collaborations, networking, and professional development. Our virtual Cafecito series has created a virtual space and community where we have come together to celebrate our cultura, The Cafecito con your ancestors is an example of this. And through this series, we're fortunate to have librarians such as yourselves demonstrate what difference you guys are all making in the library field. So thank you all for joining us today. And I just have one more announcement that we are looking for board members. If you are interested in joining our group, Sophia is going to enter that information in the chat. So I encourage you to do that. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us as well. So on behalf of the executive committee, we wish you a fun, safe, and restful summer. Buenas noches a todos.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You guys are doing
You're welcome.
amazing work, all of
Thank
you.
you. Thank you
So,
for joining us again.
It was really
Yes.
great.
Thank you.
good luck.
Thank you. I totally forgot to ask about the screenshot. You're muted.
Oh, well, it's all good.
I took a couple, but right afterwards, and then I forgot all about it too.
I know I got into the conversation everyone was having with some great tips. Great job, Renee. I love the tips that you shared.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I had to say the imposter syndrome because after I saw who's on there and all experienced people, I'm like, why am I talking today? I don't understand. But no, it was really fun to be able to chat about it.
I thought went really well.
Definitely
nice.
did. Yeah, it was nice. So thank you all. Our last event. Yay. Clap for everyone. Pat yourselves on the back. It was a great year and great events throughout. And I appreciate all the work that you all put into doing your own events. It was fabulous to see everyone take that opportunity to really enhance your presentation skills as well as, adapt to the Zoom complications that sometimes we experience. So, it's very much appreciated.
Absolutely. And I'll be sending out the invite for our next board meeting coming up. I think it's June 4th.